Madam Chair, our last commentation was on this issue of the transition team. So regardless of whether the Whistleblower Enhancement Act applies to the transition team, do you believe the transition team's non-disclosure agreement authorizes the withholding of information from Congress?
Well, I certainly believe that I've signed a non-disclosure agreement, and to the extent that that disclosure agreement exists, I have to ensure that I've done everything I can to comply with that.
So do you think it's a good policy that the President's transition team actually requires the transition team to withhold information from Congress? Do you think that's a good idea?
I don't know if they've made that assertion or not.
Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that idea in general is to withhold information because of the transition team from Congress?
At the end of the day, I felt that it was acceptable for me to sign a non-disclosure agreement, and I did, and I'm obviously bound by that agreement.
Okay, I'll take that as on its face what you've said. Your firm has, I know, has an agreement on this Cadiz issue in the value of stock. And so has your firm benefited recently from the announced Trump policy on Cadiz, or has it benefited to date in the context of this, since the time of the policy?
In terms of?
Increased payment. Benefited financially.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Was the compensation reflected in you had a personal financial disclosure statement that is about stock and equity, and is there any updated financial disclosure on that we haven't seen since?
Well, I think the way the process worked is I had to submit a letter to you, I believe maybe even yesterday or Tuesday, that it contained any updates as they related to my interest, and that has been submitted to you. And obviously, it does not include anything related to the Cadiz matter or anything like that. I simply have no interest in those items.
Okay, so nothing reflects in that statement any kind of payment or increase in payment through the firm to you prior to this filing?
Well, it would. I believe the letter includes what would be my draws for 1 or maybe 2 months as it related to the whatever the time horizon of the letter is.
On the issues of both Westland and Cadiz, I think what you have testified to is that you would adhere to whatever recusals are required 1-year period, and then whatever the administration, so maybe a 2-year. Don't you think that the general public would have concerns about a recusal period for a longer period of time on something where the investment and performance of your firm will be resulting in decisions on Cadiz in the future?
Well, I've signed exactly the same agreements that folks that were reported out of the committee with your support included. And on top of that, whatever my firm's interest may or may not be, the minute I walk out of that firm, I have no interest in their interest. And that is the way the law operates. That's the way the law is set up, and that is the way I will follow the law.
You don't find it a conflict that you have worked for this firm and you've been part of the Department of Interior. You could go back to this firm. Clearly, during the transition period, this firm's payment as it relates to stock value has gone up just because of the decisions of the administration. So yes, I have a question about whether you had any discussions with anybody during that time period to influence the decision by the administration. You've said that you haven't. And I personally think that Westlands and Cadiz represent such large public policy issues with financial interests that it would be better if you recused yourself for the entire time that you were at the department, not just 1 or 2 years. You have a comment about that idea?
Well, I appreciate that you have that perspective, and I can sit here and walk through numerous entities that you've supported that you didn't ask that of. And the reality is, I will follow all of the recusals I have, and on top of that, if I get a whiff of something coming my way that involves a client or a former client or my firm, I'm going to make that item run straight to the ethics office. And when it gets there, they'll make whatever decisions they're going to make, and that will be it for me.
I would ask you to think about a longer term than 1 to 2 years. Thank you, Madam
Let's
Chair.
turn to Senator Gardner. The vote has started, so my hope is that we can power through this